Let's take a look at today's headlines across Houston. Hello, I'm Len Cannon. Police are looking for a man who stabbed a Houston Methodist employee inside a busy parking garage in the Texas Medical Center Monday morning. That attack raising concerns among the many healthcare workers in the Med Center. Katira Winfrey with the latest.
Texas Medical Center parking garage 1 turned into a crime scene Monday after a source tells KHOU 11 a Houston Methodist Research Institute employee was stabbed while sitting in her car.
Yeah, I hope she's okay because it's really scary and we don't know what's happening.
Despite growing concerns among fellow employees and travelers through the medical center, authorities have shared very little suspect information, only that it was a man in a red-colored hooded sweatshirt.
That happened in the medical center where we have all the police officers, all the security, and then no one's ever really by themselves either. So, for a person to do that right there, they was really, really determined.
Roy Trimmer works in the medical center and says everyone is talking about it. He feels safe coming and going, but is shocked something like this could happen. An alert sent to employees says extra security precautions are now in place, despite no indication of a continued threat.
The biggest medical center in the world, right? So there's a whole bunch of people from all over the place, and you never ever know what they're going through.
People in the area who travel in and out of the garages say they'll be keeping a closer watch.
Because we're interns here and we work right across the street, so yeah, it's a bit scary that we're hearing about this early morning.
That was Katira Winfrey reporting, and we have an update to that story. We have learned that the victim, the employee that was stabbed, is at home now recovering. A house party turns into a wild shootout over the weekend, and it's all caught on camera. Watch this. This happening early Sunday morning in 3rd Ward. City records show the party was at a short-term rental. Now residents there say they are left fearing for their lives. Megan Reyna talks to their concerns and gets reaction from city leaders.
Yeah, it's unacceptable. It's very unacceptable.
It's just after 1 a.m. Sunday off Dickens Road when Dora Beard woke up to the sounds of gunfire. Surveillance videos capturing several suspects shooting at each other while dozens of people are running and hiding from the line of fire.
Everything was going on. I never saw so many kids in all my life.
Police say it started at a house party, and records show the property is registered as a short-term rental. Beard says she was forced to hit the ground, and now she's grateful to be alive.
All hell broke loose. You're shooting and everything. I was on the floor crawling around, and I just didn't do anything else and just lay there.
Bullet casings were still lying all over the neighborhood hours after the shooting. Several pierced through vehicles. Police say 3 people were shot and rushed to the hospital, but are expected to survive. However, the gunmen, some of whom you can see in these surveillance videos, took off.
I want something did about it because we don't have this in our neighborhood. We don't need a hotel here with people coming like this. We're in danger.
Several residents told us they're fed up with the idea of living next to a short-term rental. We took those concerns to their councilwoman, District D's Carolyn Evans-Shabazz. She pointed out just this year, a new city policy was put in place to regulate short-term rentals. Is there a point where they could get their license revoked?
Absolutely. The license can be revoked where they can no longer operate, especially on those platforms, because that is the reason that we are regulating, to make sure that people comply. So we're really ready to crack down on all of this.
We attempted to reach out to the owners of this property several times, but have not heard back. There is a 24-hour short-term rental hotline if you're having issues with a property near you. We'll have that number at khou.com. Just click on this story. Reporting from the 3rd Ward, Megan Reyna, KHOU 11 News.
A Montgomery County man known in his neighborhood as the Candy Man is now behind bars, held on a big bond. Police say he solicited a 13-year-old for sex online. They say he met the girl in person in his neighborhood where he's known to pass out candy. Jason Miles has more on the suspect and reaction from neighbors.
The Harris County Precinct 4 Constable's office says an alleged online predator initially met a 13-year-old in person as she and friends walked in this neighborhood where the 65-year-old is well known.
According to the other kids, this individual is known as the Candy Man.
His real name is Brian Blaine, and he's currently charged with online solicitation of a minor under 14. Constable Mark Herman says the alleged victim's mother contacted them after Blaine reached out to her daughter electronically after learning the girl's name and number.
Our undercover units took over her phone and began having a verbal dialogue with this individual where he agreed to have sex with her and basically was in the process of grooming this 13-year-old child.
Herman says they arrested Blaine last Friday after arranging to meet up near a school with who he thought was the girl.
Brian Blaine?
Yes, ma'am. Hello.
Blaine made his initial court appearance over the weekend and was in criminal court just this morning. Right now, his bond is set at $200,000, and Herman believes there may be additional victims in both Harris County and Montgomery County, where Blaine lives.
We feel confident that once this story gets out, people will see him, his picture, and there will be more people coming forward.
That is Jason Miles reporting there. We're a month out from the FIFA World Cup, and we're getting a look at what's being done to keep hundreds of thousands of fans safe and how the city plans to safely get them to and from the stadium. Troy Kless at the stadium with how security teams are preparing.
What will be called Houston Stadium will attract thousands of fans from around the world, and leaders say they have a plan to keep both the fans and the rest of the city safe. The bold statement made by the Houston Host Committee.
As the event approaches and excitement builds, we're here to report that Houston is ready.
But there are still finishing touches that need to be made, like the field. For the past 2 years, Tommy Calabro and his teams have been planning the security needs for this global event.
We set the bar high and looked at the worst things that could happen, all the way down to a lost child and Fan Fest.
You will see many officers from Houston Police, the Texas Department of Public Safety, just to name a few agencies, as well as Metro's police officers, since the horde of fans is encouraged to use public transit to move around.
We've invested in monitoring capabilities and established safety protocols to support crowd management and rapid response during the event.
Crowd management for fans from all over the world to be in Houston. $80 million in federal money are being spent on security. Existing events like the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, plus other major events, give people like Calabro a foundation to build on.
But as we received information from FIFA on the World Cup tournament, those plans evolved to meet the World Cup tournament for the 39-day operational period.
Preparing to keep people safe for that entire time. The host committee says FIFA will begin its takeover of this property on Friday and will be here throughout the duration of the tournament. Troy Kless, KHOU 11 News.
Almost time for the FIFA takeover. That's a wrap of your Houston headlines. I'm Len Cannon.
I'm Chris Lawrence with your top stories in North Texas. Data centers are causing a divide between city officials and the residents they serve. Luke Clary reports on a major vote expected in Red Oak.
Enclosed chicken coop here.
Turkeys.
We have turkeys.
On 20 acres just outside Red Oak.
We like to call it our piece of Texas.
A forever home for Chris and Jasmine Villegas.
Our other horses on that side.
She's a Marine combat veteran and cancer survivor.
This is my retreat. This is, my peace.
And among the growing number of people in her community, worried about a new data center proposed just beyond her property line.
Why the data center worries me? Because we don't know the health risks that come with it.
It's been a grassroots effort.
They started organizing as City Council decides whether to rezone agricultural land.
We got a change.org petition, and then we've been focused the last few days on the
formal protests.
You'll see a lot of signs like these in front of homes on the border of the proposed data center site. This is the western edge of the development, 800 acres. I talked to one homeowner who said he didn't want this view to change.
It's the third major data center project in Red Oak since 2020.
Within 100 to 150 feet from that tree line.
From that tree line.
2 others are under construction now. City leaders say that tax revenues have helped fund schools and public safety.
They are self-contained. We get a lot of revenues off of it without having to have a lot of expenditures, which allows us to gradually reduce that tax rate.
Jasmine and her neighbors say they'll keep fighting whatever the council decides.
I feel like I have given to this country, and now that doesn't matter.
I don't believe that there are bad intentions with this. I just believe that there needs to be another side to this conversation.
In Red Oak, I'm Luke Clary.
Loved ones are mourning the loss of a security guard killed over the weekend. He was shot while working at an after-hours club in Fort Worth. Scoop Jefferson has new details on an arrest and how they're planning to honor his memory.
There's a 86 Chevy Caprice.
When Ryder's Car Club member,
I've been owning it for 10 years.
Dale McKnight starts up his classic car.
Why did it happen?
He can't help thinking about fellow Car Club member Dominique Coleman.
Pretty much heartbreaking.
Shot and killed Mother's Day weekend.
I've been knowing him so long. I just not too long ago seen him. A couple weeks ago. Then I hear about this when I woke up Sunday morning.
The shooting happened during Coleman's part-time shift at Club New Start on Miller Avenue. Fort Worth police responded to gunfire across the street from the club, where they found Coleman and a second victim who survived. In court documents, the second victim told police a man shot Coleman with a firearm multiple times, then shot her and began to pistol whip her on the head with the butt of the firearm before leaving the area.
He was in the car with a couple other people. Thanks to the witnesses and cameras that we have, we were able to apprehend them.
Fort Worth Homicide obtained this arrest warrant, taking 21-year-old Dadrian Freeman into custody for murder.
It's unbelievable. I'm still kind of lost for words.
It hurts inside.
Cliff Sparks serves as vice president of the Car Club.
We're working on a balloon release.
The balloon release scheduled for 6 p.m. Wednesday at Village Creek Park. And as they make sure Coleman is remembered, especially for his family.
It's heartbreaking to see what his mother is going to have to see her son laying on the ground on Mother's Day.
A fellow security guard left this handheld radio at the shooting scene, also in Coleman's memory. In Fort Worth, I'm Scoop Jefferson.
The Grand Prix of Arlington was so successful, race officials are already planning a return. On March 19th of next year, the area around AT&T Stadium will again be transformed into an IndyCar track. And Tarrant County voters recently approved a bond measure to pay for some major improvements to Fort Worth roads. The city's newest council members told Brittany Costello why it's needed on the north side.
Far north Fort Worth looks much different than it did when Roman Castaneda first started tending to his garden in 2005.
Every 15, 30 minutes a car would pass by.
It's grown exponentially by his own car pass tally on Bonds Ranch Road.
You can't even count the cars that pass by. There's so much traffic out here.
But he says despite more homes and many more cars, not much has changed.
We asked if they were going to work on the highway and all this, and they say, yes, we are, and nothing has happened.
Newly elected city councilman for District 10, Chris Jamison, agrees.
I would believe that we need to do better. We can do better.
He says $500 million in road and infrastructure bonds will help.
There are major projects on the to-do list for the city of Fort Worth, including a couple here in District 10, like a planned expansion for Wagley-Robertson Road between Bonds Ranch and 287.
Though he admits District 10 will see just a fraction of that.
The city, especially in 10, has been very reactive, and it's a whole lot more expensive when you're reactive than proactive.
Jamison is a businessman who's lived in the area surrounding Haslett for years.
I have extensive knowledge of construction, planning, the ability to build relationships.
Castaneda hopes that experience will be the missing piece.
Seems like nobody cares. It's been like that since 2005.
He wants to see less traffic, more finished projects.
When the train passes, forget it.
So there's less time spent waiting. In Fort Worth, I'm Brittany Costello.
Kids in Texas are winding down the school year right now, but one girl just returned to class. And as Sean Giggy reports, it was cause for celebration.
When the students at Goodman Elementary were rushed outside and saw this, they knew it was not a drill.
It's like, what is going on here? These fire trucks are showing up out of nowhere.
Principal Marissa Guzman eventually learned what brought them here is the same thing that brought them here. Back in March, firefighters were dispatched to this home in South Arlington just after midnight. According to the call, an 11-year-old girl was trapped inside.
Like, I can hear my daughter's screams still to this day. It's the scariest feeling. It's like, what do you do?
With the bedroom door in flames, Alexandra says she broke the window and pulled her daughter out. Delilah spent more than a month in the hospital, being treated for second and third degree burns to her arms and face.
It's one of those calls that stay with you, and this is one where we wanted to follow up, make sure she was doing okay, make sure mom was doing okay.
Long after the fire was out, firefighters were keeping tabs on Delilah, checking in with her, even visiting her in the hospital, but eventually lost touch. until they were called to her house again.
Thank you.
Only this time, it was far less consequential.
It is.
Last week, the Arlington Fire Department gave Delilah a ride to school, her first day back since the fire.
Most people think that our job's done when the fire goes out, but we're still part of the community.
Which is why they felt a responsibility to be there from rescue to recovery.
So glad you're back. I love you, sweetheart.
Delilah says, in doing so, it ignited a passion.
You want to be a firefighter?
Yeah.
She truly admires firefighters, although she does have one minor grievance.
Were you excited to come back to school today?
No, not at all.
Where would you prefer that they would have dropped you off?
McDonald's.
Okay.
Heroes in all ways, but one.
Yep.
In Arlington. I'm Sean Giggy.
Gosh, love the commitment from the fire department and the reception that she got at school. And those are your headlines from North Texas.
Happy Tuesday to everybody. KV Chief Meteorologist Hunter Williams here. The look at our statewide forecast. Of course, back on Mother's Day in the evening, we had quite a bit of stormy weather, especially over central Texas, the Austin area, the San Antonio area. So we've got some areas cleaning up after a busy weekend of storms, but now it's going to be a much calmer, more tranquil weather pattern, at least for the work week. So I really have no rain in the forecast, like anywhere in the state of Texas until this weekend at the earliest. Now, as this dry weather rolls on, dry weather this time of the year oftentimes equates to hot, and that will be the case. So temperatures heating back up, as well as humidity building over many parts of the state. But as we get into the weekend, especially Sunday, a more active weather pattern again, and more so as we go to the first part of next week. I do see a return to a more active May-type pattern. Here's a look at the forecast as far as high temperatures for the next 3 days or so. And, you know, the DFW area, Monday, today, Tuesday's been great. Temperatures warming up. We're going to have some upper 80s, low 90s Wednesday, Thursday. Same thing in Austin. As we look at El Paso, man, that's like some summer type heat almost, mid to upper 90s. Likewise, down in the valley, we've got some areas getting up to close to the upper 90s. Corpus, 88 degrees for Tuesday, 90 Wednesday, 88 Thursday. Then for southeast Texas, a little bit less as far as the heat is concerned, but of course the humidity will more than make up for the heat in those areas of southeast Texas. So let me walk you through the model data here as we go through Wednesday and into the day on Thursday. Still, it's all dry. Let's keep going another day. Friday, still, it's primarily dry. Saturday is when we start to get a few little patchy areas of isolated storms. Could see some of that over southeast Texas. Then likewise, we'll watch parts of the Texas Panhandle. But then Sunday, this is when it gets a little busier. Chance for some storms late day Sunday, parts of the Texas Hill Country up towards Temple, Waco, perhaps into parts of the Metroplex. And then I think Monday into Monday night, this is going to be a bigger storm system. So I think Monday is probably the first day where we've got a widespread rain chance for much of the state, and that will include parts of South Central, into North Texas, and likewise out into parts of West Texas with a chance for some locally heavy rain, as well as maybe a couple of stronger storms. And that is the beginning of this more active weather pattern that I was talking about at the beginning of our forecast. And the Climate Prediction Center, they're picking up on this too. 6 to 10 day precip outlook, May 17th through the 21st. They are favoring a pretty good likelihood of above average precipitation for basically the entire state. So let's go into the extended forecast here. This is the statewide forecast for the next 3 days. For El Paso, dealing with the heat, and likewise Lubbock, Midland, we're going to have some upper 90s for you guys by Wednesday and Thursday. For North Texas, still Tuesday's really nice. Monday was like perfect. Tuesday still pretty nice, but then heating up upper 80s, low 90s Wednesday, Thursday. That will go for the Denton area too. In central Texas, Austin, after a couple nice days Wednesday and Thursday, bringing back the heat and the humidity. Houston area, we're looking at mainly 80s. But the humidity is going to make it feel a little bit warmer than that when you factor that in. For South Texas and South Central Texas, San Antonio, I've got you at 91 by Thursday. Then looking at some of those numbers in the valley by Thursday especially, we're getting back closer to some summer-type heat. Keep you updated on the forecast. Another update coming up tomorrow.
I'm Isis Romero, and this is the news in San Antonio. A violent crash outside an Eastside restaurant has people concerned. The owner of Mark's Outing Restaurant says he's been begging the city for safety improvements for years after other wrecks in the area. Mike Jimenez has his latest plea for help.
It was pretty alarming to me and concerning.
Concern from the owner of Mark's Outing hamburger restaurant on East Commerce and North Pine. When owner Mark Outing arrived at his restaurant Saturday morning, he found his fence had been destroyed.
I started taking photos, ended up having a conversation with a lady that pulled up and started taking pictures.
Outing says the woman told him her son was a passenger in the crash and gave him a photo of the car after it crashed into his fence. Outing says he's seen several crashes in the area.
I actually seen a lady literally killed on this area, right in the front, right here, from accidents. And it's alarming that nothing's being done about it.
Mark's Outing restaurant has been in business for more than 2 decades. And Outing says he has advocated for years for something to be done at the intersection of East Commerce and North Pine.
We need to get some lights there, something that'll cause traffic to slow down so it doesn't be a catastrophe here.
Outing says he thinks putting up stoplights at the intersection would also make it easier for people to cross the street, including children who cross the busy street during school hours.
They cross the street to catch the bus. They cross the street to come here to wait for their parents.
Outing has talked with District 2 Councilman Jalen McKee Rodriguez. He says the councilman gave him some helpful information about going through the proper channels to work towards getting something done.
I'm born and raised on the east side of San Antonio, and just someone that's a part of this community. I just think it's my responsibility to say something about it.
Now, we did reach out to Councilman McKee Rodriguez's office, but have not heard back. Mike Jimenez, KINS 5.
The San Antonio Police Officers Association has new leadership. This comes as contract negotiations with the city remain paused. Rania Kaur explains what's next.
The union is undergoing a major leadership transition while still trying to reach a new agreement with the city. And today's election for vice president could help shape what happens next in those contract talks. The last offer brought by the city, Danny Diaz, president for the San Antonio Police Officers Association, equated it to a slap in the face.
The expectation of, doing more with less has got to come to an end. It's been going on for decades, and we need to address that.
Diaz has been the SAPOA president since 2021. He'll be officially retiring from San Antonio Police and leaving the union at the end of the month. His successor will be current Vice President Johnny Perez per union bylaws.
So they've got it well taken care of. It'll fall back to President Johnny Perez when he takes over after tonight, and then go from there. But
contract negotiations have been paused, but the city wants a contract finalized before the budget season begins this summer.
Strong board in place, strong committee chairs, and I have the most, faith and know that they'll come to a good agreement, for our members.
Rania Kaur, KINS 5.
The Spurs are back home with the series all tied up, and judging by the crowd at the airport on Monday, San Antonio is more than ready for Game 5. Fans showed up hours before the team landed, hoping to give the Spurs a boost after a heated Game 4 in Minnesota. Roxy Van Rooten was there as the team arrived home.
Well, by the time the team plane touched down, Spurs fans were already waiting. Some holding flags, others wearing throwback jerseys, and plenty of them talking about what they want to see tomorrow night.
Oh, to welcome our Spurs back. Getting ready to bring the noise tomorrow.
The crowd outside the airport still talking about Game 4 when Victor Wembanyama was ejected in the second quarter after an elbow to Nas Reed.
It's a statement game tomorrow, so Spurs are going to come out swinging tomorrow. And I'm not talking about elbows either.
And if there's one thing fans kept saying today, it's that they expect a different atmosphere inside the Frostbank Center.
Come out here and show our support for our team no matter what, win or lose. We're always here for them every single time, no matter what. That's what I love about this city.
Many fans say the moment when Wembanyama walks back onto the floor, the series changes again.
It feels awesome because I really do feel that that took away from us. But having him on the court for Game 5 tomorrow, it's over.
And as the team arrived home, the message from the crowd outside the airport was pretty clear. They expect San Antonio to bring the energy tomorrow night. Now, Game 5 is set for tomorrow night at the Frostbank Center, with the series now even at 2 games each. Roxy Van Verden, KENS 5.
The San Antonio Zoo celebrated a very special quinceañera this weekend. Mary Lee, or Mary the Gorilla, turned 15. The quince-themed birthday party happened yesterday at Congo Falls. Mary is known for her playful personality, intelligence, and impressive balancing skills. She's often seen lounging in the sun or climbing high through her habitat. Mary loves carrying things on her back and enjoys activities involving tools and puzzles. And that's the news in San Antonio.
I'm Bailey Bates. Here are your headlines from Central Texas. Just off of FM 2843 in Bell County sits a church that's been standing there for more than 100 years. The community around it may have faded away, but now a local history group is working to make sure its story doesn't disappear too. Texas Today anchor Jasmine Caldwell takes you inside of a piece of Central Texas history that's frozen in time.
On this busy back road on FM 2843 near Salado sits an old abandoned church. Inside the historic Willingham Springs Baptist Church, dusty wooden pews still line the sanctuary. Broken windows let the Texas wind blow through the building, and abandoned Bibles remain scattered inside. But to Keith George with the Bell County Historical Commission, this church is far from forgotten.
But for me, being in here, you just feel the history. You can feel it.
The church was organized in 1911 and completed in 1914 by farming families who once called the tiny Willingham Springs community home. For years, the church also doubled as a one-room schoolhouse, serving local children until 1937. Keith says churches like this once served as the heartbeat of rural communities.
And they also had gatherings here. This was churches were often social places. And so these are the places that changed our history. These are the places, they shaped our history. They made us a part of who and what we are.
Today, the church sits weathered and worn, but Keith and others are now working to preserve what remains. They started a historical marker refurbishing program with a goal of refurbishing around 75 to 100 markers across Bell County this year.
These markers really need to be restored and brought back to their original value.
Keith says restoring a marker takes patience, sanding, repainting, and sealing it so the stories etched into Texas history can survive for years to come. He's inviting the community to help restore and learn more details about these markers.
It takes about 2 hours, to get one marker done. And then it's good for another, probably 15 years.
And while the Willingham Springs community itself has nearly disappeared, Keith believes preserving places like this church keeps Bell County's past alive for future generations.
They're sacred grounds because you can feel that energy from them places at times.
A great thing they are doing. Meantime, the deadly hantavirus is making headlines as passengers from the cruise ship outbreak make it back to America. 6 News reporter Sydney Walker has more on the signs, the symptoms, and cause for this rare illness.
A virus rarely seen is now making headlines.
We're going to see that in the United States. You're talking just a few hundred cases every few years.
Dr. Greg Newman with Baylor Scott & White explained people catch the hantavirus from rats, mice, and other rodents. Any place they live causes a risk.
Their saliva, through feces, and through urine.
That's how an outbreak on a cruise ship began.
Started infecting a couple of people who brought it on board from Argentina and then spread it to some others on that particular ship.
But what's unique about this case is the strain, different than the one seen in the U.S.
It's an Andes strain. It's pretty much the only one that's known to have sustained human-to-human transmission.
Symptoms begin flu-like.
Fatigue and some fever, headache, body ache, sore throat, mild cough.
And get serious quickly.
What's unique about the hantavirus is that it will advance and cause serious symptoms as it kind of kicks the body's immune system into a panic response.
It can lead to lung, kidney, and clotting problems, sometimes long-term. He said 30 to 60% of cases become serious, and the only treatment is supportive care.
but we don't have anything to actually treat the virus that invades the person.
But this isn't another COVID-19.
I would not worry too much that even if they say, hey, there's patients here in America that are being monitored for this, they're not running around spreading hantavirus.
He emphasized the World Health Organization is working at a low-level response, and they haven't seen many more people get sick.
We have had some outbreaks in the world of these different strains of this virus. None of them has been sustained enough to cause a worldwide pandemic.
And those are your headlines from Central Texas.
Hi, I'm Brennan Gurley, and here's what's making headlines across East Texas. For families across Wood County, Sunday storms turned an ordinary afternoon into a night of fear, damage, and uncertainty. Homes were struck, trees were uprooted, and many residents are still without power. But as CBS 19's Jamie Hazard reports, amid the destruction, neighbors are already coming together to help one another recover.
Powerful storms tore through parts of Wood County Sunday afternoon, leaving behind crushed trees, damaged homes, and roads covered in debris. For some residents, simply getting home became a challenge.
What normally takes me about 5 minutes took me over an hour just to get home.
Lawless said he was shopping in Mineola when the weather suddenly took a turn. As he drove back to Haynesville, fallen trees, blocked roads, and heavy rain made it nearly impossible to see. When he finally arrived home, the damage was overwhelming.
So when I pulled up to the stop up here, and I looked and I go, oh my God.
Trees and limbs covered much of his property, but Lawless says in the middle of the devastation, complete strangers stopped to help.
It's unbelievable how people come together during disasters. You know, I mean, yesterday there were just cars lined up wanting to stop to see if I needed help and everything, you know.
Across the county, cleanup efforts began almost immediately. In Quitman, city crews spent Monday cleaning limbs and helping residents start the recovery process.
Our city crews are out working today with our chippers and our brush trucks, trying to help the citizens as much as we can.
Gilbert says while some homes suffered major damage, the community is grateful the storms did not turn even more tragic.
When I say lucky, I'm just blessed that nothing's been reported to me of any serious injuries or death.
Now city leaders are urging residents to stay weather aware as severe weather season continues across East Texas.
I really urge them to make sure they sign up for alerts, get on social medias and the code reds.
For many families, the cleanup process is only beginning, but residents say the storm also revealed the strength of a community willing to show up for one another when it matters most. And while chainsaws continue buzzing and crews work to clear what the storm left behind, many here say that they're focused on what they still have, each other.
Not much you can do about it. You know, just sit and pray. You know, but I mean, I consider myself lucky.
In the middle of broken trees, damaged homes, and darkened streets, neighbors are leaning on one another, proving that even after the strongest storms, community is what carries people through. For CBS 19, I'm Jamie Hazard.
As America prepares to celebrate its 250th celebration this year, we're highlighting East Texans who represent the spirit of service, hard work, and community. Over in Gilmer, one Marine veteran is turning the same discipline into Texas barbecue. CBS 19's Renee Estrada has the story.
At East Texas Rust Barbecue in Gilmer, the pits rarely stop smoking. And while customers come for the brisket and sausage and ribs, owner Clyde Osborne brings something else to the pit: the discipline and work ethic he learned during his years in the Marine Corps.
I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps. First enlistment, I was stationed at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, deployed from there a few times.
And after leaving the service, he returned to East Texas and eventually traded the oil field for barbecue.
It started cooking in the backyard, just messing around on the weekends, you know. Then the neighbors found out we were cooking brisket and they wanted one, so then we're selling barbecue to the neighbors.
That backyard hobby eventually turned into a food truck and now a full restaurant that's gained recognition across Texas. But Osborne says the lessons he learned in the military still shape the way he runs his business today.
It's funny how the Marine Corps and barbecue kind of relate for me because it's hard. It's a lot of sleep deprivation, a lot of elements, heat, cold, a lot of hours, a lot of work.
And from tending to the pits to experimenting with new recipes, he says barbecue has always given him the same sense of brotherhood he experienced in the military.
And then the brotherhood of the other pitmasters all over East Texas, all over the state, really outside of the state too. We talk to these guys all the time. We're really good friends.
Now, as the country approaches America's 250th celebration, he says he's grateful for the opportunity to serve his community in a different way, one plate of barbecue at a time.
It's a process, and you're going to mess it up a billion times before you finally get it right, and everything starts to click. Right. But once you get it, it's addicting.
In Gilmer, Renee Estrada, CBS 19.
And that's a wrap for East Texas headlines. I'm Brennan Gurley.
I'm Mark Mullins in Austin. We are learning new details after a triple homicide in northeast Travis County last week. Court documents shed light on the case against Joshua DeHaan. Deputies say last Thursday he shot and killed his parents, Jamie and Armand DeHaan, and his brother Noah at their home on Servono Drive just east of Lake Pflugerville. Court records we obtained described how neighbors heard loud bangs at the home around 5:20 a.m. And video shows a car speeding away from the house about 25 minutes later. Then around 7:30 a.m., deputies interacted with DeHaan in Westlake Hills, where they say he was having a mental breakdown, but left when he said he had to go find his grandmother. Around 8:30, Jamie DeHaan's co-workers called 911 saying she had not shown up for work. And just before 9 o'clock, deputies found all three dead in their home. Investigators detained DeHaan in North Austin just before noon. An Austin congressman is demanding the release of an Austin high school student after federal immigration authorities detained him. A Texas DPS trooper pulled him over for expired registration. They later determined he was not in the country legally, so they turned him over to immigration officials. Reporter Daniel Perot has more about this case.
School, soccer practice, work at Popeyes, play with his 2-year-old nephew. That's how Luis Fernando Cabrera's sister Holly describes his daily routine.
Now that ICE has put my brother in jail, my baby walks into his room and only asks about his friend, Shorty.
On May 1st, Luis was arrested while driving home from work and turned over to immigration authorities. On Monday, Congressman Greg Casar stood next to Luis's cap and gown and joined his friends, family, and supporters to call for his release.
Fernando should be in these robes, not in a jail cell.
Luis has lived in the U.S. since he was 11, when his family entered the country from Mexico in 2019. Luis's lawyer, James Harrington, says his family claimed asylum, and Luis was still awaiting a decision in his case.
The situation was so bad that they embarked on that journey knowing that the mom was pregnant and this was very dangerous, but they had no choice.
In remarks read by Casar, Luis's sister called what has happened cruel.
I don't understand why it's so important for ICE to jail people like my brother, who are good members of society who support their families.
As federal authorities have ramped up immigration enforcement activity, Casar says stories like Luis's have become more common.
He is just one of so many children who have been arrested and locked up for just no good reason that I think anybody could support.
Loved ones say weeks from graduation, Luis was excited and dreaming about his future and plans to attend Austin Community College.
We would always talk about it, and it's just sad to see that we're just going off without him maybe. And
Juan Carlos Coronado Gonzalez is a classmate and friend.
I consider him more like a family member because he's so close to mine.
He says Luis was always supporting others. Now he says it's his turn to be there for his friend who's stuck in a cell hundreds of miles away.
He was always a friend that you always wanted, and to see him so far and you can't even talk to him right now, it's just heartbreaking.
And that was Daniel Perot reporting. A DHS spokesperson tells us Cabrera will remain in custody while immigration proceedings play out and, quote, will receive full due process. Enrollment in Texas public schools is dropping. During a hearing at the Capitol Monday, Texas Education Agency Commissioner Mike Morath told state lawmakers public school enrollment dropped by about 75,000 students this year. He says since state funding is based on attendance, large enrollment losses could cause funding challenges for school districts.
If the enrollment decline is relatively small, the legislature has fairly consistently increased per pupil funding, and so you can actually sometimes see an enrollment declining environment, but your net revenue is higher. But if enrollment decline is larger than that, then you are going to also see net revenue declines as a result of that, even with increased resources from the legislature.
Commissioner Morath says he doesn't know what precisely is causing the decline, but he did point to changes in demographics, including the birth rate and migration changes. The Texas Department of Motor Vehicles needs to do a better job of protecting Texans' privacy. That's according to a new state audit. Today, the state auditor's office released that report showing significant weaknesses in how the DMV manages vehicle registration and title data. The DMV is allowed to sell drivers' personal information to approved companies, like a towing company telling someone their car was towed, or a toll road operator communicating with drivers. But the audit says the DMV did not follow all of the requirements that are meant to protect drivers' privacy. Specifically, the report says the DMV continued to provide data to companies without updating their contracts to address state consumer privacy requirements that went into effect in 2021. The auditor's office says this means the department could not properly monitor the data that was being released to those companies or the resale of that data to third parties. The auditor's office recommended that the DMV update all existing data disclosure contracts. The report also scrutinized internal data management. Leaders with the DMV agreed to the auditor's recommendations. All of this comes as the DMV is in the middle of a multi-year, $131 million project to modernize its registration and title system. The auditor's office says the DMV should improve its oversight as it goes through that process. Some people are still cleaning up after powerful storms swept through central Texas Sunday night. Strong winds brought down tree limbs and large branches, which damaged homes. This was sent to us by one viewer in Leander. Thousands of Austin Energy customers lost power, and crews have been working all day to restore service. Reporter Daniel Gomez checked out on neighbors in South Austin as they cleaned the damage.
Jessica Cohen didn't imagine her week starting off with yard work.
Out of nowhere. It's the strongest wind I've ever seen outside of like Houston, where I grew up, a hurricane.
It wasn't a hurricane, and this sure isn't Houston. But in South Austin, it's branches, snap trees.
We've got one unit up there that's missing a whole corner of the wall now, where a really big tree fell on it.
A mess. Sunday night storms also knocking out power. Overnight into the morning hours, you could spot a lot of these Austin Energy trucks all throughout town trying to restore power to more than 10,000 Austinites.
So at the height of the storm, our outages were at about 19,000 customers, and the vast majority of them were brought back online and restored to power by early this morning.
But not without its challenges.
They saw an extensive amount of damage, as you would expect, with 60+ mile-an-hour winds, on top of the fact that we've got a very saturated soil, so those trees were especially susceptible to falling over.
And those trees makes getting the lights back on for some homes complicated.
The homeowner has to contract with a licensed electrician and coordinate with Austin Energy before we can restore power to that home.
In the meantime,
if anybody wants to come help, bring a little saw, we could sure use it.
The cleanup continues. Daniel Gomez, KV News.
And those are the headlines in Austin. We hope you have a great day.
Hi, I'm Leslie Adamy in Corpus Christi, and here's a look at some of what's happening here in South Texas. The Port of Corpus Christi is introducing new environmental guidelines aimed at shaping its future growth. It comes as the port continues to see record activity, drawing national attention as global conflict with Iran drives up energy exports through the coastal bend. Natalia Osuna explains what it could mean for the region's future.
With activity surging at the Port of Corpus Christi, local leaders are now trying to balance economic growth with environmental responsibility. Lily Wilkinson is a longtime Sinton resident. She grew up swimming in Corpus Christi Bay in the 60s.
There was a lot of sludge and things and a lot of waste from petroleum industry that dumped into rivers and creeks in the bays.
Wilkinson says that was then, but now she says the bay looks quite different.
The water now is so fresh and so clean. I've never seen it this clean and pristine.
A perspective she shared after attending a community meeting hosted by the port to announce new environmental guidelines.
Projects executed under this contract remove accumulated sediments, debris, and vegetated overgrowth.
3 News sat down with Port CEO Kent Britton, who breaks down those updated policies.
We kind of have a cadence for our strategic planning at the port of 3 years. And so as we
kind of update our strategic plan every 3 years, which we just approved, 4 or 5 months ago. Along with that, then following right on the heels of that, we update our environmental policy.
Britton says the port's customers respond to regulatory commissions like the TCEQ, but his team is trying to make changes within what they can control.
Converting our fleet, for example, to hybrid cars, those kind of things where you can, or even fully electric if it makes sense. Reducing our water consumption.
Britton says those guidelines will ultimately help port operations. Chief Strategy and Sustainability Officer Jeff Pollock agrees, saying they're developing a new tool in collaboration with Texas A&M Corpus Christi, a historic move for the port.
Measure, truly quantify our relative risk to various environmental risk factors, storm surge, high winds, temperature, flooding, the scale of an individual dock, an individual warehouse, an individual facility, so that we can make very data-driven and informed decisions about how we invest in that infrastructure.
Well, the annual Buck Days Festival may be over, but the stories and legends that help build it are still very much alive here in South Texas, and it's all steeped in pirate tradition. But how much of it is real history and how much of it is just legend? Here's what our Ryan Hopper dug up.
Ahoy! I'm Ryan Hopper in Port Aransas on the Red Dragon, the ship that was used for the Buck Days dunking of the mayor. This is such a great local tradition. It got me thinking, how much of this tradition is folklore versus actual fact? It's no secret that the coastal bend loves its pirates, from Mathis to London to Rockport Fulton to Sinton and, of course, Corpus Christi. But experts say the actual number of pirates here was quite low due to the Texas coast's treacherous conditions.
And we're standing in an exhibit about the 1554 shipwrecks. These ships weren't stopping there. They were just trying to follow the coast, follow the winds. Storm came, blew them into the barrier islands. You get a shipwreck.
Beal says these wrecks, along with uneven sandbars, discouraged settlement in the coastal bend until the 1800s. But we do have a history of local lawlessness. In the 1830s, the Nueces River was the U.S.-Mexico border, making the coastal bend a sparsely populated, lawless region, attracting smugglers and other hustlers from all over the country, including Pennsylvanian Henry Lawrence Kinney.
He kind of settled here, maybe without the permission of the local Mexican owner at the time, because this is pre-Texas, this is pre-United States. Owner of the land grant actually came up with an armed party and was intending to throw him out, and they actually worked out a deal where he legally bought the rights to operate his trading post and to bring new settlers in.
Kinney's post eventually becoming the town of Corpus Christi.
We were a frontier between two great political powers, and anytime you get a frontier, you get people attracted to the opportunities that provides. And he was certainly someone here intentionally because it was a bit of an unclear situation, and you can make money in unclear situations.
So while French buccaneer Jean Lafitte will always be the first local pirate to come to mind, this Buck Days, think of the scallywag who founded this city nearly 200 years ago. From the 7 Seas, Ryan Hopper, 3 News.
Okay, and I can confirm that our reporter Ryan Hopper did make it back safely to the newsroom after his little tussle there with Jack Sparrow. And that's a quick look at some of what's happening here in South Texas.
Here's your headlines from Southeast Texas. I'm Mark Armstrong. 12 News has obtained new video of a police chase from last month that spanned across 4 counties in Southeast Texas. Now, this is from DPS Southeast Texas's Facebook post. On April 12th, Silsbee Police and Jefferson County deputies, they were following a Jeep that crossed into Jasper County where DPS took over. The driver led troopers through Kirbyville and into Newton County before a pit maneuver brought everything to a quick halt. Now, we've reached out to Sheriff Colton Havard about updates and pending charges, and we'll keep you updated. Well, the Beech Grove Volunteer Fire Department, they got a call after Saturday evening storms that a teenager had been struck by lightning. According to the department's Facebook page, the male teen was conscious and communicating. The post says that he was fishing with friends and was standing under a tree that was struck, throwing him several feet away. Lead pipes in Beaumont, they could eventually be replaced using state environmental fines paid for by local industries. City Council approved that plan this month. The city says that it is looking at 2 possible projects, one to investigate lead and copper in the city's water system and another to replace lead and copper service lines. Together, those projects, they account for more than $3.2 million. funding that could depend on future environmental cases. Koontz is mourning the loss of a man that many say helped shape the heart of the community. Jerry Papa Jack Jackson, he passed away this past weekend. Now, he and his wife Barbara, they built Papa Jack's and Mama Jack's into more than just restaurants. They had become gathering places filled with memories, family, and Southern hospitality. In a social media post, the current owners of Mama Jack's says they knew they were stepping into something special when they took over last fall. They called Jackson's legacy one that's going to live inside these walls and around every table shared. 15-year-old Beaumont gymnast Sophia Gravel is officially a national champion on the balance beam. Now, she competed in Oklahoma City for a shot at a national title in gymnastics and stuck the landing. In a Facebook post, her home gym in Beaumont says that she's the national balance beam champion. Now, she finished 16th place all around out of 57 girls. The post also says that Sophia represented Region 3, which won first place out of 8 regions. And for our last Golden Apple Award of this school year, the recognition it goes to a leader in Beaumont who goes above and beyond to not just manage a school, but to change lives. And this month, Tia Johnson, she went out to Marshall Middle School.
Go Bulldogs.
It's passion.
We working it up here.
It's purpose.
Y'all killing it.
And now it's award winning.
I was a teacher and a coach for a while, and I was saying, I thought to myself, hey, I can do better. I can make a better impact on these kids if I have more control.
At Marshall Middle School,
All right,
you'll find Dr. Morrell Stewart in the hallways, classrooms, and everywhere in between.
So you have to create the environment that's good for the students, whether it's the right lessons, how the teachers greet the students. So you have to create the environment. So that's really the major piece of running the campus.
Dr. Stewart is a product of Southeast Texas and has been principal on this campus for 5 years. He says being a principal is all about balance. So 12 News had no problem awarding him with the Golden Apple Award.
Is Dr. Morrell Stewart here? You've been nominated and awarded as the 12 News Golden Apple Award recipient.
Y'all sent me.
So here's your flag.
Yay!
And I know we caught you off guard, but how does it feel for someone to nominate you for this and you be selected?
Amazing. It feels amazing, and I'm shocked.
So why is education important for you?
It's everything. I mean, it's our future. It's the kids. We can't have a great future if we don't have our kids taken care of.
Yay! Congratulations! Dr. Stewart's mom nominated him, saying he has a great passion for education and has devoted most of his adult life to making the youth better and better.
It feels good. It's for somebody to acknowledge the hard work. It's a lot of hard work.
Congratulations, Dr. Stewart.
And those were the headlines from Southeast Texas.